Season 1, Episode 9. This is the last episode of
Season 1.
Season 1.
That went by fast.
Quick. Real quick. That is what.
It went by really quick. It's been great. Obviously, the past few weeks has been a little crazy. We were just talking about that with coronavirus and whatnot. So it's been crazy, but you know we're still trucking along.
That's right.
So guys, Episode 9.
Hey,
here's to the end of the season, man.
There you go.
There it is.
Oh man, never.
Why
I don't think you guys
always
have.
this?
I mean, you guys have
just it's a lot of distance, bro.
Social distancing.
It's a lot of social distancing.
Welcome to the Four Horsemen of Sales. I'm Yanni.
Claudio.
Alam.
Malcolm.
Yeah, we are the Four
kinda
Horsemen of
went-
Sales.
We are the Four Horsemen.
Dude, you kind of messed it up.
Why?
Because that's a different direction. You went in
Yeah,
a different direction.
you did.
It was
Yeah,
all-
Why?
We
What
do.
are you talking about?
We always go
That's-
that way.
You always
Oh, I
went
did.
this way. Yes, every single time.
I said Alan
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's okay though, man.
Well, guys, if this is your first time, welcome Four Horsemen of Sales. Again, Episode 9 of Season 1. And we're excited. I can't focus with you guys.
Sorry.
So I know. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. But I know I did not forget.
Quote of the day.
Quote of the
Quote of the
What
episode.
are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about the top books that have inspired us, helped us along our path. Each one of us will give 2 recommendations or give off 2 books that have had made an impact on our. That's my book, Clyde. Come on, on our careers in life. But before we get there,
A little quote that sets the tone, as always. This one right here is from our friend Jim Rohn. Right?
Oh.
Great author, Jim Rohn.
Yes.
it up.
You like
Yes.
this?
Switched it up.
Switched
That's
it
our
up.
production.
Claudio.
Claudio's pretty critical.
Today-
Claudio's pretty critical about these quotes, so
Go ahead. We're
if you
listening.
can impress Claudio, then it's a winner. But this one says, hey, try not to become a person of success, but rather try to become a person of value. And I'll say it again. Try not to become a person of success, but rather try to become a person of value. And hey, one of the ways that you can add value and you can become more valuable is increasing your knowledge, right? And kind of goes into, I know everybody's probably got a little bit more time in their hands right now, so we felt like, hey, this topic was something that was more than suitable and in the right time, and talking about, hey, what are the books that probably had the most amount of impacts on each of our careers or up to this stage. So, hey Jim, you want to start?
Man, hold on. Before we start, I always have to say this. Obviously, I keep forgetting beginning and the end. You can catch us on all podcast platforms and YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, download, leave us a review. We're getting better, guys. First season, we've all obviously been part of sales and whatnot, but this is our first go at podcast and going about this. So we're still learning, and it's raw, unedited. Just straight up, all this organic and straight up. So hopefully the first season has been great, and continuing on, it'll be even better and better. But yeah, today we're talking about, like you said, books.
Yep.
Top books that have made an influence in your life, in your career, anything really that's helped you grow. I think we've talked before how this is so important. Books, podcasts, movies, whatever you find valuable in developing yourself and becoming a better person and better skilled and growing. That's important. And so, yeah. You want to start off? In each of one of us will at least break down 2 books and kind of go from there.
Yeah, man. Appreciate that. And also for those of you out there that's already been following us, supporting us, liking us, and showing us your love, we truly appreciate it.
Sure.
And we look forward to obviously continuing to grow that family as a whole. Hey, my 2 books that I think we'll start with one. All right.
Yeah,
so one of the books that you said we're going to talk about 2 books.
No, I know. Yeah, I'm saying.
So-
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. One of the books that I think, one of my 2 books that are extremely on the must-reads for me, one of them I'm pretty sure all of us here probably already read that. It's called The Alchemist, right? It's unbelievable. Love that book. It's something that you got to read continually, in my humble opinion. And that is because there's a lot of teachings in that book. But one of the things that I'm gonna I obviously revert to a specific quote because I think it kind of puts things in perspective, and this is it right here. It talks about, it takes you through a journey, right? And one of the things that was asked on that book was, hey, what is the world's greatest lie, right? Y'all remember this part? What is the world's greatest lie, right? Hey, the little boy asked that question, and the old man replies, it is that at a certain point in our lives, we lose control of what's happening to us, and our lives become controlled by fate, right? So, hey, what does that mean, right? In a timing like this, that means more than anything. It's like, you know, we feel as if fate is controlling us, when in reality, I think we can control our own fate, right? And that's one of the biggest things that stood out to me when I was rereading this book is, hey, whatever that your destiny is, whatever your dream is, whatever goals you have, you gotta just push through it and just get it done. Like, there's nothing that should stop you. There's nothing that should get in the way of it. It's having that mentality that, hey, you know, being extremely 100% hungry and not letting anything get in the way. So reading that book, that's one of the things that stood out to me and that I absolutely love about it. Obviously, this is something that requires continual reading. It's not, you know, you just read one time, but that's one of the things I got out of that.
I took that that section, that quote, as, you know, when you're a kid, you have these dreams, these ambitions, right? And you always feel like, you know, you have some sort of control. And then as you grow and these responsibilities and all those come into your life, it almost seems like you have less control. Like, you're just going by what fate has destined for you to be. Like, you feel like you've lost control of your life in that sense, because now you always feel like, okay, well, it's not about what I can't. There's always excuses now why you can't achieve or what you're trying to achieve, right? Goals and whatnot. What's so funny here, man?
He just crossed his arms and sorry.
No, but this guy's a joker, man. But I feel like that's what I got out of it, because as you grow and it seems like you feel like you get stuck in that, maybe sometimes 9 to 5 and whatnot. Then it just seems like your life is on autopilot.
Sure.
And then it's just that's something that I got out of that one. But that's a great book. Yeah.
The biggest thing that stands out for me is Will Smith uses
he used that reference.
And it made me like, oh, what is he talking about? I remember reading it way back then.
Who's the author of that?
Gosh,
Yeah,
Paulo Coelho.
Yes, I mean, it was written.
When in your career did you read that?
Early, man, early. But it's something that I continue to read too, though, right? So
he was a different man then. He was a different man.
Different.
Much skinnier, for sure.
Oh! Hey, shots fired. Shots fired.
Wow.
Shots fired. I will say though, every time, speaking of different time in my life, when I read it the first time, it's a different perspective that I got out of it than reading it. Like, the last time I read it was last year. So when I read it last year compared to when I first read it, you get a different perspective. You get a different insight into it. So it's interesting how the same book can have tremendous amount of different meanings to the same person at different stages of their life.
Oh yeah,
so that's a good point. You grow. Yeah, you grow.
You know, when you read it the second time or third time, you're a different person. So I talk a lot about that, about doing the basics.
Yeah.
You know, people are like, hey, what's the bet? Like, one, why read that again?
Yep.
I've already read it. Or why continue to do the fundamentals of something? It's because, hey, you're going to take something away. You know, you're going to take something different away as you develop. If you're the same person, then obviously you're going to look at it the same way, 100%. And you'll have the same takeaway. So,
100%.
The Alchemist. That's nice.
The Alchemist. Yep. What about you, Mal?
Are we going to just go back and then come back around?
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, it's, man, I think this is a fan favorite.
I know it's Grant.
It's not. It's not Grant.
It's not Grant.
One of them is Grant. One of them is Grant.
But I was about to say.
No,
this can't leave him hanging. I know I took one of your books.
This one is.
I think Grant's being mentioned several times today. Huh?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the infamous author, actually trainer, trained probably 3 of the top highly renowned athletes. First one being Dwayne Wade. Right.
First one,
big.
No, first one being Michael Jordan.
Oh, you're going back. Oh, okay.
Well, Mike's. Let me.
Well,
but then say it the right way. You confused us.
No. I said, hey,
the first one.
I didn't say that's the first person he trained.
Did he not just say that?
One of, right? So first one being Dwayne Wade. We all know he was probably the last one to retire. The most recent one, Dwayne.
All right.
The second one you know, the late Kobe Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
There it is, representing.
Dude, next episode,
What?
no sleeves.
You gotta show off the tab,
Oh,
man.
the tab.
You gotta show the tab.
Next
Next
episode.
episode, you gotta show the tab.
Yeah. Next
Next
episode. And that's that.
Can you pull it up though?
Next
Can you see
next-
the tab?
No, I can't do it now.
Come on,
It's
dude.
You might have to, man.
You have to, bro.
It's still healing.
I'm surprised to see him in sleeves.
I
I
can't.
know.
I should have
It's
said Kobe last.
You should have said Kobe.
But the
It's
third one
okay.
is
You should at least cut that
is the
slip
great
off.
Mike. Right? It's
Michael
the one and
who?
only Michael Jordan,
There
yes.
it is.
And this was the guy that actually trained all three of these guys to reach to a level of stardom. But he's most known for his book Relentless, right? And how to go from good to great to unstoppable. And you know, the reason this was probably one of the most impactful books was because it's all about the mental state. You know, how to grow mentally. It was about being tough-minded mentally. And you know, we get a lot of books that are strategies with sales and motivation, but this was all about, you know, controlling, you know, where you are. If you know, everybody's at a different place mentally, and most people don't know how to grow and how to become stronger from a mental standpoint. But you know, he puts it in perspective, because if you want to be challenged, regardless of where you're currently at, you know, you challenge where you're at mentally, right? And when you look at where you're at mentally, that's something that can have a tremendous amount of impact on the amount of resistance you're able to take in.
Yeah.
How you actually react to success, right? When you have it, whether it's small or great. And so there's a lot of takeaways in this book, but you know, again, the biggest thing that it did for me was challenge. Hey, you know, how do you look at passion, right? A lot of people talk about going after their passion, and for Tim Grover, he put it in perspective, saying, hey, passion is useless unless, you know, it's followed by a high level of action. And when it's action, it's less about the emotions, and it's more about doing whatever it takes to get through whatever you're going through. And so if you've ever heard him speak, I've had the privilege of hearing him speak at one of the conferences, but this guy is somebody that, I mean, definitely uses colorful words, right?
My kind of guy.
Yeah, but he tells it exactly like it is, and he's the type of guy that, much like a trainer, you know, we talk about, hey, what's the benefit of a trainer? It's not to, in my personal opinion, it's not even to show you things that, because everybody knows what to do when they work out, but it's to push you through the limits that you can't push yourself, right? And this guy, Tim Grover, man, it's definitely one of the ones that I would recommend. If you don't like to read, like me, I'm catching it on Audible, because that's what I'm doing these days. But
You're doing audio, not audible.
On Audible.
The app.
The app. You should give a shout out to the app. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazon.
Well, that's the
They're
power
taking everything
of the branding.
Yeah.
If you think about audio, you just think about Audible is the only thing. Like initially, I thought that was only
way you can listen to it.
Yeah, only way you can listen to it. That's
Oh,
how big they
thought
are.
that was-
Yeah, it's
yeah,
Audible.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when people
Did
just say
I just
Uber.
plug Audible?
You did.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
just
just-
get the Uber.
just
even
Uber
though-
here.
Yeah, instead of
Yeah.
saying like Lyft
Share
and
ride,
everything
yeah.
else.
It's true. It's very true. It's a good
Yeah.
point. It's a good
So-
point.
I'll finish it with this. You could be a cooler, right? And a cooler is what most people are. Like they're probably the most average individuals. I don't want. Sometimes they're followers, but they're just going. They're going along with everything that's presented. The closers are probably the ones that are most goal oriented, ambitious, and you know they're trying to lead from the front.
Right.
Where Dwayne, where Kobe, where you know Michael Jordan was, they called them the cleaners, and the cleaners are the guys that, I mean, it's a whatever it takes mentality. These guys are, you know, really nothing else matters but the results.
Yep.
But winning, and you know there's a lot of things you got to sacrifice for winning, but these are the examples, and this could be applied to regardless of where you're at. You know, he talks about in the book where even the teacher, the teachers that are most demanding and they don't take a lot of BS at all. They're probably the most disciplined. it's how do you grow your mental state to become that, and that's definitely one that I would recommend to our viewers.
For sure.
For sure.
What I do like about that book is what it essentially trains you on is mentality, how you think, right, and what your perspective is.
The Mamba mentality.
The Mamba mentality, right? So
yeah, that's probably where it came from.
where Kobe got it from, perhaps, we'll never know. But what I'm saying is, as far as like that book, I think, and you said it yourself, no matter where you are in life, no matter what hat you wear, it trains you how to have that mentality, have that
that killer instinct.
Killer instinct. Anyway, that's a very good.
That's the biggest difference. Like people think like, and again, not in terms of like it's not a coincidence. All three have been part of that training and whatnot. Yeah. But when you look at those guys, it's not like they're the most like athletically gifted. Like it wasn't that. Like ultimately, all of them mentally were on a different level.
Yeah.
And that plus the fact that I think once you're in that level, then you realize how much work that you have to put in.
Yep.
And so, because you can find somebody like athletically gifted as each one of those guys, like even more so.
Oh yeah.
The difference, how are those people different than the normal average? Six, 7. Wade is like 6'3", 6'4". Just all those guys. That how that different, and it goes back to the mental game, and it's really ultimately. I remember hearing Kobe say, he was at I think it was one of the finals, and he's like, everybody wants it now. Like that doesn't matter. It's not about what you want. It's about how efficient you are, how effective you are, results. Yep. But ultimately it's that. So that's a great book. I actually haven't read that, so I definitely have to.
Seriously?
Relentless? I have not. No.
He hasn't read the
Wow.
I have not Relentless.
I could have swore we all read it.
I have not.
Wow. Well,
you let me go, Clay?
Yeah, go for it, man. Well, I will say this, though. I'm curious. When that book first was released, he does mention how he would categorize LeBron as a closer.
He did.
But he didn't call him a cleaner.
Yeah, this is prior to him winning a few of these.
This is prior to his winning, so I'm curious to know.
But prior to him going to Miami? Is that what you mean? No, I'm just prior to him going to Miami.
Yes. To answer your question, yes.
And then going back to Cleveland.
But you're also thinking about going back to Cleveland.
And then going to L.A. and it was going to be good until no more sports.
Yeah, but I'm curious to know. I'm curious
before he went back to Miami.
But this is also, I think that book came out, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure it came out before they won their first championship in Miami with LeBron.
The time when they lost? The first one they lost?
First year. I believe so. I think that's when this book came out. So I'm curious to know if we were to ask Tim Grover any question, it would be that.
It's hard for him not to say that now.
So that goes to show that you can grow from each stage. Anyway, that's the
because LeBron was not a cleaner then.
I'd agree with you. I think there are moments that he had cleaner moments.
Like what? Say something. He wasn't a cleaner then. Like he had to grow. I think he's grown a lot.
He had to grow.
It was just different circumstances.
It's not a different circumstance.
I
don't think you can say.
But undoubtedly, right now, we can say that he's a cleaner.
Yeah, I don't think you can, he's grown totally mentally and in his game and how he goes about it. Like, you could say that before he got to Miami and all that, I'm not saying, that's one of the reasons, but, he was, he would get gun shy. He would pass up the big moments. He wasn't somebody that you would say mentally he had to get over something, and he did. I think ultimately what happened with LeBron is once he went to Miami, he became the villain. He's like, man, forget this. I don't care. Now, he stopped caring about being liked. And then ultimately
he was building a brand.
Yeah, and I think and that helped him. Ultimately, he's like, you know what? Forget that. It's all about me. I'm in total control of my. I don't care what people think of me.
Yeah.
And I think
he was very conscious about what people thought about.
So
at least that was the perception. But go on with your.
So my book, I alluded to it in other episodes. It's Atomic Habits by James Clear, and I actually read this pretty recently in the past 4 months. But that book, man, it really, ultimately, if I can go back to, like I said, what I perceive as something that's different, that makes successful people successful, it's habits. And so we're always trying to build habits. I struggle with it. I know all of us have struggled with it. Like building and creating, all those things. They had routines. They had habits. Kobe, Jordan, whatever, waking up at whatever time, doing their weightlifting, then shooting. All those are habits that you have to stick with. So like he breaks down this book breaks down how to effectively create habits and like techniques and strategies and whatnot. And ultimately, it really helped. I'll give you 2 examples of that. When we're trying to create habits, we think like let's say I want to read a book, 1 book a month. You can't go from not reading just even a few pages a month to reading a book a month, a book a month. Like you can't, like you have to. He says you're going by trying to create a habit, in essence, without taking the necessary steps. So he mentioned you want to create the action, the habit of the action, not necessarily the task. So what I mean is like. First, get in the habit of, if you want to read a book a month, you probably have to read something every single day. Like, you have to read a few pages a day.
Yes.
So, start out creating the habit of just reading a day. So, simplify, there's a 2-minute rule. Simplify whatever habit that you have in the simplest, easiest thing to do in 2 minutes or less. So, in this case, if I want to read a book a month, how about I read 1 page? Just create the habit of reading 1 page a day. That's something simple. That anybody like it's not. It doesn't even need willpower. Right. Like reading a page, you can knock that down.
So that's what you mean by making it simple.
Making it simple where you create a habit of like. So let's say but what he's saying is when you do that, then the creative momentum takes you along. So normally. Let's say if you get dressed in your gym shoes, what do you get in the what are you gonna normally do next? If you get in your gym shoes and your gym shorts and your basketball shorts,
go to the gym.
Yeah. You're more likely to do that. Yep. So create a habit of putting on your gym shoes and gym shorts, all that. That's all the habit that you want. Your goal is not to go to the gym. Just create the habit of, hey, every single day I'm going to put on my gym shoes and my gym clothes. Right. And that's it. And then in terms of, that doesn't take any willpower, just doing it. And that will inevitably, momentum will take you over time. Or,
you know what's crazy about that? I'm not to cut you off, but I've read somewhere. Yeah,
you did. Not to cut you off, but to cut you off.
I cut him off. I've read somewhere.
With all due respect, you're a jackass. You can't just because you say with all due respect.
Yo, hey, I read.
Hey, wait a minute. Not to cut you
off,
but
I just didn't know. What else? I read somewhere where on the same note of that whole gym thing.
Yeah.
If you prepare your gym clothes the night before and just have it laying out.
Yeah.
Right. It's easier.
I get it. You said gym. When you said gym, he was like, I gotta get it.
I got that was good. I have a question about the habits thing.
Yeah.
Is it true about it takes, what was it? Is it 30 days, 60 days?
21 days.
So is there...
So take 30.
But that's what I'm saying. So you're moving too ahead. That's what I'm saying. So
okay.
the fact that people are like, you know what? If I go to the gym for 21 days straight, then if you've never been to the gym like at least even 2-3 days straight, you're not gonna get there. So you create the simplest habit of that, and that's been big. That was big because when you think about that, then reading a page a day does not make it. So once you create that habit, in essence, if you read a page, you're probably gonna probably read another page, read 2 or 3. But once you create that habit of reading a page a day or whatever it may be, that's big. And another thing that he mentioned on that book, which is eye-opening, is we think these people that have that created these habits of strong habits that I stick with them are like the strong-willed people. It's not. They just eliminate temptation that will hinder them from making those habit decisions. So like the easiest, it's simple thing kind of thing is, but if you want to like lose weight, get rid of all the soda in your like you're not strong enough where you're gonna look at that and like get rid of that. Another one is, this is big because I don't know if I could ever do this, but like if you want to sleep early, you want to like wake up early. Part of the reason you have to sleep early is get rid of the TV in your room.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? Like you're not strong enough to like resist temptation all the time. You have to remove all those things so that it's easier to do those habits.
What if you don't remove them?
So
it's just gonna make it harder.
It makes it harder.
And ultimately,
I still got my TV in the room.
So when he talks
No,
about,
because he has a TV in the room, but he gets up and does his 6 a.m. workouts, and I'm like,
no, not like the habit that needs it. Like I do it like sparingly, I would say, not like continuous. You know what I mean?
It's crazy, but nobody knows that it's the one thing you need to remove that's keeping you from that. Like it's not the TV. You're just thinking like, oh, you just didn't get up that morning. It's not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's insane. And part of the reason you may not have gotten up is because I probably got on my bed and then turned on the TV and watched another episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm until like 1 a.m. And then now it's hard.
Curb Your Enthusiasm. That's really what it is.
No, but if it wasn't Curb Your
that's
Enthusiasm,
detailed.
something else.
Yeah, something, yeah.
What I will say,
No, I
though,
get it.
is something that he did highlight in the book that I really liked is, I'm going to use the TV example. He talked about, hey, if a habit is distracting, something's distracting you, you can start out by unplugging all the cords to the TV.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a strong enough willpower to get behind that,
Or after you finish watching,
after you finish watching Curb Your Enthusiasm, after you watch one episode, unplug the TV. Okay, well then then you take that and you actually remove the cable box and put it somewhere else, or you remote and then
you make it either easier or harder. Right. So like, if you're trying to get rid of a bad habit, you make it harder to do that habit. If you're
cutting me off.
Oh, I'm sorry, dude. But yeah, that's exactly the. I mean, it's it's simple, practical things that you could do to build those habits, and like those little things are big because now once you get in the habit of just like with the book thing, just read. All you're telling yourself is I just want to read 1 page a day. Yeah. That's it. Then you create the habit of actually reading every single day in your mind. Another thing talking about gym is if you want, just go to the gym. Just tell yourself I want to go to the gym for 5 minutes and be out. Yeah. Just go there every single day. After 5 minutes, you can leave. Ultimately, even if you do that for 2 weeks, you have built in your mind that you go to the gym every single day. Correct. And so those things psychologically is what's that book is amazing in my eyes for sure.
I second.
Strong book.
I second.
I need to pick that up on Audible.
Write that one down. Claude, you're up, buddy.
Claude, we come to you now.
What you got for us?
No, for me, of course, when we came up with this podcast, what's been a book that's influenced me in my career, and it's the first sales book that I read that I was like read front to back and then read it multiple times. And it's, of course, one by Grant. It's called Sell or Be Sold. That's a good one. And so one of the reasons why that one stood out is in the first like 5 chapters. And then it's just something when I was in management role, I would give to my reps all the time when I hired anybody new. And I said, listen, this first week I want you to read the first 5 chapters and tell me about it. And the whole reason why is if most of the time when they read the first 5 chapters, it's basically selling yourself on why you need to be in sales. Again, it's breaking down the basics of why it's important to have a purpose, believe in all that kind of stuff. And then he goes into the strategies of overcoming the myths, overcoming objections, different things to arm yourself as a basic, things you need to go into sales. Yeah. And the reason why that one stood out is, like I said, I give it to a lot of my reps when they first started into sales, but it's also one that you can read throughout to reflect, occasionally go back to the basics, work on your craft. But Malcolm, remember, that was one of the first ones.
Yeah, because you did that for me. Yeah. Back at Verizon, and
he was your boss.
He was my team lead. Yeah. Damn, he was my mentor. He was my team lead, and he introduced me to GC.
Yeah.
You introduced
you introduced him to GC?
Really? How did that happen?
Wow.
Hold on. We're talking the book?
So Sell or Be Sold, do the book.
Wow.
I don't remember the exact.
I thought Grant introduced himself to Malcolm.
Yeah. I'm the one who put him on.
You put him on GC?
That's crazy.
Shouts out to Claudio.
I had no idea.
Good stuff, man.
Way back in the day, only Malcolm knew that, but now everybody knows.
Wow. Even Malcolm gave me cheers on that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No. But that was definitely one of those books that set my career off.
I was wondering why you immediately said, "I got this book."
Yeah, that is. I knew.
Gotcha.
I knew he would understand that too. That was the whole reason why Malcolm didn't say anything about it, because he knows.
Yeah, he knew.
That's the book I put him on.
Foundation.
Man, you learn something new every day.
That's something that I do recommend for all the new hires coming in.
Yeah, new hires. It's just one of those you.
I do like that book though.
If you lose focus, you can go back to read. Mm-hmm. It's a quick read. It has good stories in there, good analogies. that's relatable to your circumstance.
Did you read that, or was that? No, there wasn't Audible then, right?
No,
he
so
actually
that one
had
I've read. Like, that's the first
the
time.
first book you read.
No, I'm talking about like physically, like read a book on sales. On sales, right?
Yeah.
This was the book.
Wow. So who put you on, GC?
I thought he said read.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so I was really thinking about that.
Was it Branham? Jeremy Branham?
I think it was. It was either Brennan.
That was when he was just coming up, right?
Like, nobody knew about him yet. It was little stuff, and he had
He wrote that book.
That was
after,
his first one, right?
After the whole 2008, 2009.
It was a
book,
different.
right?
It was a different name. It was the one where it's called Obsessed. His first book was Obsessed.
But he rewrote that.
And
book
he
too.
rewrote it and added stuff, and it came Sell or Be Sold.
But what I'm saying is he
okay.
rewrote that. He rewrote another book, and he now called it Obsessed or Be Average.
Be Obsessed to Be Average.
Be Obsessed.
Yeah, so I mean that one's a whole other spin.
Be Obsessed is the one where he's on that plane.
On
Right?
the plane,
Yeah,
but
so
that was the original one of the Sell or Be Sold.
Damn.
And so I think it was Jeremy Brenham that put me on,
he was
on
another
that
team
book.
lead there.
So, but that was the first sales book that
you
I
read.
officially read from front to back, not listened or anything.
Yeah.
That I actually sat there
That's
and
good
read
stuff.
Yeah, it did. I mean,
Corey has the cassette tapes. This is
No
how old-
way.
Yeah.
I have CDs of the
The
10X.
CD, oh, I'm sorry, the
I have
CDs.
CDs
Sorry,
of
sorry, the
10X.
CDs.
oh.
Sorry, I'm thinking.
Yeah, I don't know.
He has
Yeah.
CDs.
How old you getting?
No,
What?
no,
No,
he
that
has
was in
CDs.
Seattle. They don't have CDs in Seattle.
Yo, you gonna keep talking this shit?
All right, let's move on. Hey, all right, so we got our second
Put
one
this
here.
hot coffee on you, bro.
Second one, I could just jump right
Oh
into
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
wow.
let's
Got it
go.
ready.
Dang,
Wow.
he's in the zone.
I'm in the zone.
Zone.
It was actually here recently in the last 2 years I read this one. It's called Combo Prospecting. So that one is by Tony Hughes, and one of the things about that one, it incorporates the old school mindset of prospecting, which is, cold calling where you're making actual physical calls.
Yeah.
And then and involving the social selling aspect.
That's
and he
right.
talks about the strategies and how to incorporate both. So that way, in order to be successful now, you got to do both. And it just kind of confirms some of the things that I've been doing already, but it also gives you new ways and different spins on how to approach people, how to use LinkedIn, things that that works for him already. He already gives you strategies too. So it's not like surface level. He actually gets into the details of,
Strategies.
what actually works. Here's what you need to do. Here's the blueprint.
Nice.
So it's one of those things, you still make it your own, but he actually lays down the blueprint for you to incorporate both. And so a lot of people, especially now the sales reps that are doing B2B now, go a lot to this heavy on the social. And they don't really they want to do everything just email and not pick up the phone and actually call that person.
And that's important.
And that's what we
because
talked about before, but that was one of the books.
But like those executives have that old school traditional type of communication
so that's
as
what he
well.
breaks down in the book too. A
You
lot
gotta
of
be
the
able to touch
CEOs are in a different space, depending on your industry and your vertical. But a lot of the CEOs are older; they're a different generation, and it's okay for them to pick up the phone and call somebody. Our generation is like, hey, if it's send in an email and then let me know, I'll respond later. You know what I mean, and that kind of stuff. So it really breaks down, and even if you are having to do that aspect, it breaks down different subject matters to get their attention, what building value, and how to really break it down in 4 sentences, because nobody's going to read 3-4 paragraphs of what your business does. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
I remember when you were reading that book, you were telling me how you gotta hit them on all sides.
Yeah,
when they hear from you and they see you on LinkedIn and then whatever, they're like, damn, what the.
Now he told me about his process
so
too.
that was
he
one of
told
the
me
ones too. It actually worked.
It does work.
It just breaks. I mean, I used a little different spin. Like I said, you get the blueprint and then you put it on in the way. But it's basically saying conscious in their mind consciously. So what I mean by that is, let's say you call a CEO. The first call should be a call to CEO. Sometimes he's not going to answer, or they're going to put you to the voicemail, whatever. Let's just say he doesn't answer. You put it in, you're going to say, hey, I'm going to send you an email, and you say your name, your company, whatever it is, so it rings a bell. Next thing you know, later on that night, you look at his profile. Guess what? On LinkedIn, it's going to tell him somebody looked at it. You're not adding them yet. You just looked at it. You get what I mean? So your picture, your name pops up, and he's like, what the hell? Or if he goes in there, or he might go a couple of days, whenever he looks at it. You'll see
that
it.
name is going to be...
Yeah, then in the morning, that night, you set it up for schedule, sending an email out in the morning. Your email can go out first thing in the morning, 6 a.m., 7 a.m., however you want to do it. Or if you're up, you send those emails, however you want to do it. If you work the night before or not. Guess what? CEOs are there first thing in the morning. They're going to read the top email first.
Yep.
So if you have the subject, the thing ready to go, guess what? He's going to see your thing, and he might read 2 lines.
Yeah.
But guess what? Your thing is 4 sentences. It's easy to read. He's going to be like, might as well read it.
Yep, exactly.
And then he's going to check his voicemail while he's checking that. Guess what? He hears your name again. And it just breaks down.
Cardio, man.
Yo, you know what that reminded me of?
The Hammer.
I know we're going to talk about this eventually, but that movie, Focus. Remember how you constantly... y'all remember that movie with Will Smith?
Yeah, I definitely remember the movie.
Focus?
You haven't seen that movie? Put that on
Will Smith,
your watch list.
The master robbery.
When they rob. Oh, y'all need to watch it.
I
Margot
do
Robbie.
with the other. I know. With the where he's in the car.
Yeah, remember the I'm not gonna ruin it.
Let's keep it moving. Let's keep. What is it?
But that's
We'll
what it's called. Combo prospecting.
Combo prospecting. Malcolm, what's yours, man? We want to.
Hey, the second one is from my guy GC.
And
this was when it comes to sales.
I done called it.
I mean,
odds were in if y'all bet.
I had like 5 or 6.
The odds are over on that was
the closer survival guide.
The closer survival.
This right here
There's an app for that.
There is, right?
There's an app for that.
Yeah, he's got the app. I mean,
is that free?
It's everything.
Yeah.
It was at one point.
It's still free for me.
Oh, you can sit down?
Yeah, I got it right here.
Yeah.
All right, good. Yeah.
But hey, this right here.
GC a lot of shout out, man.
I mean, he's good, man.
You know what I'm saying?
God, man.
We're officially
GC.
disciples.
GC, holla at us, man. We're
Get
tagging
at
you.
us,
We're
man.
gonna tag
Come
you.
on,
We're
man.
officially
Get him on the
disciples.
Give you a lot of shouts out, man.
Let's get an interview out here.
Free shout out for GC.
Hey, but this one right here, you know, when you talk about the closer survival guide, just in the title of the book, you know, why is
That was a good joke.
why?
So we're disciples now.
Hey, come on. Hey, why?
That was a good one, though.
Yeah, that is. Why is closing so important? Right. So one, there was a distinct difference between selling and closing, right? And you know, in my career, obviously it started out with with corporate with Verizon, right? And then it went into something a little bit more transactional, and it was a 1-point sell in the vacation ownership. But the biggest takeaway from the Closer Survival Guide was the fact that it gave me the know-how to say what to say and when to say it, right? And what they call word tracks. So, you know, a lot of people when it comes to selling something or even closing, because a lot of people love to sell, you know, give features, benefits. When it comes to closing something, hey, there's specific words that helps you overcome objections. Yeah. And instead of trying to figure out or wonder what to say, that book, you know, right?
Doesn't it break down like each one, like each
every
kind
category?
Of
Gosh,
I'm talking about
If there's ever a book
like it's
to
detailed.
read on Audible,
countless.
that's it.
Countless.
Like,
And you know
gosh.
the crazy thing is, I remember showing this to one of our directors. Yeah. Right, Dustin. He said, "There's no way you would just say that."
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is when you have such an arsenal of closes, it's not about it's knowing. See, like I'll give you a prime example. He talks about when somebody gives you an objection. You know, he says he'll hear him out, right, and we'll just reply, "Well, just do it anyway."
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
That was one of the closes.
Exactly. Just do it anyway.
You know, yeah, the person that doesn't understand closing altogether, you got to know when to say that.
Yep.
You might just say that to get them to say what?
But that's
or laugh at it.
It's not really it's
Dude,
not
it's an
what you're saying
arsenal.
to close something.
Yeah, that's not the ultimate
like,
close.
Ultimately,
No.
You've spent some time with
he
these
just.
people too.
I think he was putting more content into it, depending on the personality of the person.
Yeah.
So you start picking out like, I like this one, or
Yes.
no.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
But you spent some time with this person too. Like it's not like you just walk into a street and say, just do it anyway. Like,
Exactly. Everything is in context.
You have a conversation.
But
then
yeah, man. It's you know for all the what was that?
No, the first time you said that because when I heard these, I'm like, hey, is this guy crazy? Like, you can say this? Just do it anyway.
You actually have this on your manual.
Oh.
Your DMV manual.
Oh, the other one is the praying one. He goes, well, you know, I'm a praying person. Let's all pray together right now.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
I 1,000%.
But think about it. Look, somebody
did that on my yes.
Yeah, you know.
You remember we did that?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're infamous for doing that.
Absolutely.
Actually.
I closed the deal that way,
You
bro.
closed the deal that way. Yeah.
No. I think
Guys,
I've only
you
had
get hit with the, hey, I need to pray.
I need to pray about it.
I'm just
Hey,
kidding.
you know what? I'm a praying individual as well. Hey, let's hold hands. Let's pray about it now.
Hey, I understand.
I understand.
You know?
Understand. So that is one that you.
Hey, I too pray, right?
I too pray.
But you can't say that if you don't ever pray, right? That's different.
True. We're not
but,
asking you to lie.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but hey, the point of this book, the point of this book is,
Anyway.
hey, if you want to learn what to say, when to say it, how to say it, right, from words to tonality to body language, all of it. And he teaches that.
Yep.
Timing.
Yep.
And it's a litany of closes
Yep.
that obviously you'll have to apply to whatever, industry you're in.
Yeah.
But you talk about raising your level of confidence in the close. It's definitely one that's a takeaway.
It's true.
So,
I'll say
closer
one of the
survival guide. Yeah.
I'll say one of the ones that was kind of stuck out to me that, speaking of when he said, man, people are going to really say this, was when he said, do it for me then. If you're not going to do it for you, do it for me. Yeah, that was one of them. He's like, hey, if somebody's not willing, if you're not willing to do this for yourself and your kids and your family, I'm asking you to do it for me.
You know who always does that?
Who?
Blake. My boy Blake.
Does he?
100%.
And Blake is strong.
100%. He'll be like, listen, if you're not going to do it for yourself, do it for me. Man.
Do it for me. And then,
And
hey,
they're all like, okay. I'm like, what?
do it for
Hey,
me, yo. Do
you know
it
why?
for me.
Because it's followed by, hey, because surely you'd want me to do well.
You sure want
Right?
me to do well.
Nobody wants somebody
You
to
would
do
never
bad.
think
And
it.
if they would
You would
admit
never
that,
think it.
yeah, and that's crazy. Very creative.
Admittedly, I've tried that and it worked.
There you go.
Yeah,
Alan, what's
sure.
up? We'll do it. What's yours?
We'll go right to mine then. Mine would be the second one is Pitch Anything by Oren
Ooh,
Clef. Man,
Pitch.
oh,
That's a good one.
Hey,
man.
this is a little advanced.
This one right
It
here.
is advanced.
My
This-
guy
this
Selassie
right here?
loves this one.
Oh, I love this one. This one right here.
Ninja Turtle loves it? Selassie?
Selassie.
Shout out to Selassie, the Ninja Turtle.
Hey, that's
Oh,
closer.
If you saw him, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
That's a closer.
No, he's my man.
One
Shout out to Mark.
Mike, MH, the
law
law firm of MHS. Hey, I will say this. That's what he goes by, his nickname.
I
He
know
was
it
dubbed.
is.
Nah, he loves his
I
book.
thought it was Norbert. Okay.
No.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Alan.
Go, man. This guy.
Yo,
oh,
that is
man.
We're
funny.
gonna have him on as a guest just to let you know.
We are.
He's
Yeah,
gonna have
eventually.
time to be on here.
No, we
Oh,
can't.
let's
cut
go.
that. Hey, I will say though, one of the best books that I read multiple times, and I actually referred this book to a couple of my teammates that are underneath, like we work together, whatnot. These reps, and they read it, and their essential production went up, right?
Really?
For after they're reading it.
So what's the
obviously.
basis of it?
The basis of it, it takes you to the psychology and the science of how people think, right? I think that's why when you say it goes deep, no pun intended there, but it's true, right? It really takes you into how people think, the psychology of the sell process, the buying process of that as well, and the actual science behind it. So for me, hey, I think that reading that book allowed me to think a little differently. For example, a lot of times we talk about the takeaway, right? Hey, there's no stronger book in my opinion that teaches you the takeaway than Pitch Anything, right? And so there's an art that's needed in order for you to facilitate a transaction, right? Because and then the other thing too is, hey, pitching from a position of strength versus weakness.
Yeah.
And so you got to get to a point in your sales process where these people, because here's the thing that I learned early in my sales career, is that everybody loves to buy. Everybody loves to buy. No matter who you are, you love to buy something. You are a buyer by heart, if you will. But nobody loves to be sold, right? And I think that's what this book sort of teaches you how to do, is that get into the psychology of how people buy, their buying process, and so on and so forth, and the science behind it. And anyway, so that's my recommendation.
Even more, Jan, when you were given as part of your script,
The priming.
People want what they can't have, and you call it priming. He talked a lot about framing, but the simple verbiage of is that I don't have a lot of time.
Yeah. It's basically talking about, in essence, like he goes to meetings, and with these big executives, and basically says, "Hey guys, listen, I don't have a lot of time, so I'll make this quick," and that, in terms of the framing aspect of it, turns everything around, because most of them, those people are being used to, like, people are like with their mouths open, like,
Thank
ready
you
for
so
their
much
attention.
for being here.
Yeah,
He's not thinking anybody.
So now the framing, he turns it upside down now, where they're like, who the hell are you? Like, you know what I
It
mean?
elevates the status.
And
yeah.
so that's the psychology of it. That it's just, it's
Exactly.
Hey, that's an advanced book, but
Huge.
I'm telling you, if you've been in sales for a while, you want to pick it up. You might have to read it more than once, but
For sure.
it will for sure
For sure.
give you a takeaway that you can implement that will change the dynamic of how you interact with your clients.
And I'll put it this way too, in context. My top rep, right, that I have, after him reading this, he literally, I mean, we talk about intent statement, right?
Yeah.
His intent statement is built around anything.
Is it?
Oh man, it's so solid, it's so strong. Like, I mean, the moment these people sit down in front of him,
Call him right now.
he should.
Say.
He takes it from a position of we're essentially begging them, but instead he makes it feel like, hey, this is my time, and so on and so forth. He takes it away. It's strong.
It's guys. It's most
No,
effective.
not what else. Oh, we gotta keep going.
Hey, I think it's most effective. Hey, hold on. Yeah,
He's messing with you.
Yanni's running the clock on me here.
Hey, no. Claudio's messing with you, right?
He is?
He's messing.
yeah. Hold on. This book is most effective.
Mm-hmm.
This book is most effective in
Transactions,
transactions.
man. They
Was this
clowning
your
around,
book?
bro.
In transactions you want to close that day.
Oh, this is a point of sale kind of thing. Yeah.
Right, so if you want
else?
to close something in the span of an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, maybe 30 minutes, that's one of the books you want to get.
There you go.
Who is it by?
All right.
Oren Clef.
Oren Clef, man.
Thanks, man.
Come on.
Did you read that book?
Claudia was messing.
Clyde, you need to
Did
pick
you
that
read
one
it?
up.
All right, well, my book here, and we'll finish this out because we're running out a little time. Like I said, we want to keep
This
this
is
for you,
strong
brothers.
content.
No, it is, you know.
They
Yeah,
don't
we're
rush
almost.
the people, man. The people love this. They ain't got nothing else to do with their time. Right?
Hopefully they're watching us.
Thank
you guys.
My last book, my second book is, and I will say this. So I happen to have the
Wow,
hardbound
you actually have a copy of
But
it.
like so, and here's one thing that I will say.
The original print.
Yeah, no, but this book was printed like just like The Alchemist a while ago, and then they reprinted it. But I don't know about you guys. I used to do the Audible and audio and whatnot. So I got to a point where like it was good. I could do it while I'm driving, but I can never like. It was hard for me to go back to a certain thing when I'm driving to like either circle or go back and kind of
they
reread.
have the what you call it on there on the app.
What?
They have a column where you just click notes.
Yeah, and then but you should do that while you're while you're driving.
While you're driving.
Don't do that when you're driving.
Or even while you're
I'm
living.
not saying I'm doing it when I'm driving.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm
listening to things when I'm working out.
I don't
Oh,
get this
so
recommendation.
I'm
Don't
sorry,
do
guys.
this
Do
when
not-
you're driving.
I'm not. I never said write notes when you're driving. I
I'm
just
saying,
said
yeah.
No, you're just pointing out
one of
one of
my
highlights of
reps
that.
didn't know that you can do that. So
Man.
I provided that information for them, and they're doing that now.
That was a good story, y'all.
All right, guys.
So
So,
go ahead.
hey, listen. The power of the subconscious mind. I think this is ultimately something that I think anybody needs to read. Like I said, this thing is not about being in sales, but reprogramming your subconscious mind. Like, come on, guys. Reprogramming your subconscious mind. Ultimately, your subconscious mind is what ultimately navigates you to your whether it be your surroundings, your actions, or all that. So reprogramming it, using actual statements, using actual whether it be vision boards, whatnot, but like consciously thinking about how you have to reprogram it in a sense of if your life is not the way that you wanted to, if there's always sometimes why you're not successful financially, you're not closing deals and whatnot. There's something in your subconscious that's it's going against the actual what you're seeing in reality. So you have to really reprogram it. So the power of subconscious mind, ultimately, I think that works in that. It was written, a long time ago. Specifically, I don't know exactly when it has been reprinted. So it can be a little, in essence, dry in the sense, but the content in it is so powerful. So again, those are 8 books.
Yeah, I got them all. I got the list.
You got the list. All right.
Give us the rundown.
Let's go rundown. We got to close this
Hey,
out.
the first one, Alchemist,
By who?
by
Don't worry about-
Pablo Coelho.
There you go. Boom. Second one.
Relentless, by Tim Grover.
All right.
Who's that?
Atomic Habits. Who's that one by?
James Clear.
James Clear. Sell or Be Sold.
Grant Cardone.
Ooh.
Go ahead. Come on.
Combo
Come on.
Prospecting by
Come on. Thomas Hughes.
Thomas Hughes.
There you go.
Tony
Pitch
Hughes.
anything.
Tony J. Hughes.
Tony Hughes.
Tony Hughes. Combo Prospecting by Tony Hughes. Pitch Anything by
Oren Clef.
And The Power of Subconscious Mind.
Joseph Murphy.
And The Closer Survival Guide by Grant Cardone.
What?
Hey, those are the eight. Hey, those are the top 8 books.
Just one more, just as a consistency.
No, we're not doing one more.
Yeah, no.
Just
What are
as
you
an
going to
honorary
read
mention.
now?
No,
what
honorable
are you
mention.
reading now?
The 10X Rule. Honorable mention by Grant Cardone.
Oh, for sure, for
10X
sure.
rule.
The 10X rule.
That's it. And we're leaving it
Hey,
at that.
I'll say there's
No,
a
we'll leave
lot,
it at that.
but
No summary.
yeah, absolutely.
The 10X
Alright,
rule.
There's a lot.
Okay, guys,
Grant
listen.
Cardone.
Season 1 has been amazing. These
It's a
books
wrap.
right there, I'm telling you, you put this in your...
9
you
books.
Take this, okay, if you have a lot of time right now, and most of us do, take these...
Knock the book out a week.
That's it right there.
Small like
That's
steps, bro. What are you
8 books
doing?
right there. 8. This is the Four
So now
Horsemen.
do
Clearly
it.
didn't read Atomic
Catch
Habits.
us on all podcast platforms and YouTube. Subscribe,
We're on Apple
download, review, just all of that, guys.
At 4 Horsemen of Sales.
Yes, we plan on getting more recommendations from you guys and what you want to hear and
Book
whatnot.
club starting soon.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Should we give them a sneak peek into what season 2, episode 1 is gonna
Season
be?
2,
Fun-filled packed.
we'll
Fun.
let's, it's going to be some good guests. Let's just leave it at that.
Great
some
guests.
great guests, I should say.
Good. Great.
We're going to start
Great.
out with the
I'm
interview.
Yanni.
Sure.
I'm Claudio.
I'm Alam.
AGM.
Absolutely.
MK.
This
Now,
is the Four Horsemen of Sales. We are out.
Season 1.
Season
Wrap up
1.
Season 1.
Nope.
Here we go. We are out. We are out.
Go,
Man.